Hi everyone, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, all.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Shall we begin?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thanks. So, very good evening to all of you, and welcome to today's session, in which we'll be discussing about data pre-processing and data curation. So, I'll just quickly share my slides, and before we start today's part, I'll just have a quick recap of what we did in the last time. Okay, so I hope my slides are visible and I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thanks. So this was just an introduction to IIT Roorkee that we had done last time. So I'll just come to so last time we had discussed how the evaluation is going to be for this particular PG certification course and about the attendance requirements of 70%, about a written exam and group activity, and about the markings. So we had started out with the introduction of how AI falls in place in cognitive science. As cognitive science is a multidisciplinary area, and AI and computer science is kind of part of it, where cognitive science is is the study of how human intelligence, how humans exhibit intelligence, how they behave, and all that. Then we discussed what is AI. And though there are a lot of definitions of AI, we discussed that uh, in some one way or the other, when we that part of computer science that deals with making computer systems intelligent, somewhat intelligent, and exhibiting something like human intelligence, we call it artificial intelligence. And it is a multidisciplinary area drawing upon a lot of other fields. Then I showed you the relationship between AI, machine learning, deep learning, NLP, generative AI, and agentic AI. We talked about the different AI tasks, in which learning is the most important task, one of the most important tasks. And learning is all about making machines intelligent by feeding them historical data and then allowing them to somehow learn this data and to then use the learning to generate new concepts or make predictions and so on and so forth. Then we had discussed about the important techniques in AI, like supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and regression, which are primarily discriminative methods. We discussed about classification, where we try to model the given data, and this model is used to predict the class label. The model is just nothing but a function that we map over the input to obtain the output, which is nothing but the class label. And the whole task is to find out the most appropriate function f, which takes as input the input parameters x and gives output, which is the class label, with the least amount of error. And we talked about different applications. And then we talked about discriminative models versus generative models and the key characteristics of discriminative models. We also discussed in brief about unsupervised learning, where clustering is the most important technique. And in clustering, we try to actually form groups out of the given data where we do not have the group information in advance, and we use some form of similarity measure. And the objective is to maximize the distances across the clusters, which are called cluster distances, and minimize the intra-cluster distances. We talked about clusters of learners, all of you, pan-India, and then we talked about some other insights about all of you. Then we discussed about use of regression in predictive analytics and forecasting. When regression is used to predict the class label, then we say that it is used in predictive analytics. When it is used to give a value for the future timestamp or the future value, then we say it's being used for forecasting. We also discussed about anomaly detection, where anomaly is nothing but a very differently behaving point. And it is very important in many of the fields, such as in credit card fraud and some other applications like medical field, etc. Then we discussed about the introduction to deep learning, where there are different deep learning methods. And the summary is that these deep learning methods try to simulate human-like brain by having neurons which are connected to each other with the help of edges, and neurons can be stacked in layers, and they are also called nodes. And these layers could be hidden layers, input layer, output layer. And like this, we can actually create deep learning models, and these can be used to make prediction. There are different kinds of deep learning models. We'll be discussing in a lot of details as we go along. And then we discussed about the different applications of deep learning, such as in NLP, healthcare, finance, etc. Then we also discussed about what is generative AI, in which I told you that generative AI tries to actually generate new content, which was not possible by the traditional AI techniques, which we discussed so far, such as generation of text, images, code, data, and so on and so forth. It can learn patterns from large quantities of data and then use this learning to create new patterns. And then we talked about the agentic AI, which sits on top of generative AI. So generative AI can do what it has been assigned to do. For example, if we want the generative AI to generate some text for us or for some data, we will give some constraints or some conditions based on which it will generate the data. However, agentic AI goes a step beyond generative AI. Say, for example, if we want a certain kind of data to be generated, then in agentic AI, the agent is going to evaluate the generated data to find out its goodness for the given task or objective. And if it is good enough, then it is fine. If it is not good enough, it's going to fine tune and going to regenerate the data. It will learn from its own mistakes and so on and so forth, and it will give the best possible data generated. So with this, I think we did some applications and concluded this session. So I'll do a stop share, and now we'll begin with today's portion.
Ma'am, one quick question. I was going through this document for AI tech. So one term that I got across is the enforcement learning. So is it part of this supervised learning and unsupervised learning, or there is something else on that?
So actually reinforcement learning is a different kind of technique in machine learning. It is used in agentic AI, and you can say that it is a part of supervised learning.
Supervised. Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
Okay. Just a sec. Okay. Now we'll begin with today's portion, which is on data pre-processing. Okay. So the thing is that whenever we are using some data, so the base of any analysis is actually data. If data is of good quality, then the results that we obtain will also be good and appropriate. However, if the data is low quality data, then we cannot expect good results out of this data. So today we'll be discussing today and tomorrow about different tasks in data pre-processing. It's a very important thing. Now again, data is of different types. In these two sessions, I'll be primarily talking about pre-processing of numeric data. So what is numeric data? Any data which has numbers in it is said to be numeric. Slightly later, when we start the section on NLP, then I will be discussing the pre-processing for data pertaining to text. So that we'll discuss in the relevant section. As of now, I will be discussing pre-processing. Now there are different tasks in pre-processing, such as data transformation, reduction, discretization, and so on and so forth. We'll be discussing all of these as we go along. So as I mentioned that when we talk about data pre-processing, there are certain standard tasks when we look at numeric data. What are those? Cleaning the data, data integration, transformation, data reduction, and data discretization. So I will take each of these in a lot of details as we go along. So let's start with the first one, which is data cleaning. So what is data cleaning? Data cleaning means resolving missing values in the data, removing noise or jitters from the data. If there are any inconsistencies in the data, resolving those, and so on and so forth. Now, how these come in the data? There can be different reasons. For example, there could be some malfunction of a sensor that is actually taking the data, recording the data. Or if it is some human operator, then it could be due to error on that part. Or for whatever reason, there could be different reasons because of which there could be, noise in the data. There could be missing values. Say, for example, there's a power failure and the values that were supposed to be recorded could not be recorded, and so on and so forth. Now, for us, we want the data to be high quality. What we mean by high quality means the data must have all the values in it so that we can analyze it and get good results. Now, having said this thing, that it should have all the values, this is a very I should say it's a big statement in itself, because if data is having missing values, then it's a non-trivial process to be actually filling in these missing values, which is what we'll discuss shortly today. I'll give you an example of how important data cleaning could be in terms of filling of missing values or removing noise from the data. A very practical example of this could be, say for example, we want to study the surface of the earth, okay? And to do that, probably we'll have to have images taken from satellite, and then we'll have to study these images to find out what are the changes that are happening on the surface of the earth. Like for example, there could be forest cover getting converted into urban area, or there could be water bodies which are receding, etc., etc., etc. So now, in this example, we need good quality images from the surface of the earth, right? Now, do you think there can be any issue in this? Taking images from the satellite looks pretty foolproof. Can there be any problems, or can there be anything related to this this thing? Anyone?
Quality issues.
Garbage storage like Gazipur.
Sorry, what did you say, Prashant?
Means
So-
garbage collection. Let's suppose if people are collecting all the garbage from the colonies residential area and making the mountain-like thing as
Okay.
Delhi has the so from the satellite it will looks like a mountain.
Okay. So there
Clouds
could
could be a
be,
problem.
yeah, okay. So there could be certain collections that would look less meaningful from images taken from satellite. Yes, for example, the garbage dumps or garbage areas, that could be one thing. And cloud cover could be a problem, but clouds don't come every day, right? So would it really be a problem? It could be a problem during rainy days, so to say, or there could be anything else. Yes.
Pollution.
Ma'am, pollution
Any-
could be one problem.
Okay.
And also somewhere, suppose any fire has happened, a smoke cover is there, or in the
Correct.
yeah.
Correct.
Maybe some no-fly zone images also might come, like there are some areas which the government says that overhead images and no-fly zones are there.
Okay.
Maybe signals from some other devices may interrupt the images and create noise in the
Yeah, that's
images.
also true. That's true. So I
Uh,
think we got, yes.
Recently, I think Google has solved one problem for elevation. Before, for pedestrian or anyone who was not able to distinguish between the circuit where it is going to overbridge or it's a footpath. So recently, Google cleared up this data and solved this problem. I think that was an issue for non-tech giant for analyzing those satellite data, satellite imagery.
Okay. So I think we came up with a lot of interesting examples, and I'll like to take some 2, 3 out of all these. Of course, due to time constraints, we cannot take.
Caused by satellite motion, if angle of the sensor is changing, so that could also be.
Okay, so usually it's assumed that satellite is at such a large distance that that change in the angle due to motion of the satellite or of the rotation of the earth, we assume that it is negligible. And also satellites always have a static orbit. I mean, I should not say a static orbit. Of course, in the orbit they are moving, but the speed at which they are moving is the same as that of the earth. So therefore, probably, yeah, correct. So therefore, the that angular thing will not impact, but there are 2, 3 things. One, cloud cover. I think it was mentioned that cloud cover could be a problem, against which I said that cloud cover could be a problem in monsoons. Now the question is that correct or that isn't correct? So now you think about Amazon. Now, when we talk about Amazon, there can be multiple things coming to minds of different people. The most common thing that would come is Amazon.com, where you buy some things. So you talk about that e-tailer. But Amazon also represents or it signifies the rainforest, Amazon rainforest, which is a geographical location on near the tropical region or around the tropics on the Earth's surface. Now, this region is so hot and humid that it is said that for most of the time, at least 3/4 of the day, this region is always covered by clouds. So clouds can be a problem definitely when it is monsoon season or sometimes when it is about to rain. But for certain regions, it is a problem always because that region may always be covered by clouds. Therefore, and when images are taken from such regions, then what happens? All you get is just a cloud cover, and you really don't know what to do about the study of the surface of the Earth. So, therefore, such kind of data would actually be accounting to low quality data. And if we have this kind of low quality data, the analysis of the low quality data would also bear results which are low quality and which may be incorrect also. Therefore, we need to resolve all these issues in the data before actually utilizing it for analysis. Now, another example that is quite interesting is that of, I think it was pointed out that there could be fire. Now, small fires, they would not be caught practically in satellite images, but if there are large forest fires, yes, that could actually be taken that could be recorded on images taken from the satellite. But additionally, it can also be true that in certain months of the year, there may be a lot of fog in the same regions where there is forest fire. Now, the forest fire can create a lot of smoke, and this smoke cover could actually hide the surface of the Earth. Now, and if images are taken over such regions, then what you will see is just something which is covered with smoke, but it looks like some white clouds or something like that. Now, if images from the same region are taken during winter season, when it might be foggy in that area, then again what you will see is a similar, white cloudy image. And it's very difficult to actually identify whether what we are seeing is a cloud cover or is it a smoke cover, unless there are certain specific or explicit features that help us to identify. So this is an open problem in image processing. Anyhow, I think we have discussed a lot of nice examples. So let's go to some part of numeric data to understand what all is the issue and how we can resolve it. Okay. Now, as I said that in this chapter, I will be primarily talking about numeric data. So here's a small example. It just comprises of 10 records. Records means 10 different samples with the IDs R1, R2, R3 till R10. And let's assume this data is having 5% missing values. In total, there are 10 into 60 values. So with 5% missing values, you are having actually 3 missing values, which is what you are showing as highlighted here. And in this data, we are having a binary class problem. That is, we are having two classes. One is given by C1, the other given by C2. And you can see that C1 is just 3 samples, whereas C2 are 6 samples. So C2 is the majority class. Now, the question is that we have got 5% missing value. Then how can we handle such missing value? How can we handle missing values such as what you are seeing here? What may be a very simple solution?
Averages of the past.
Average.
of values.
Average of
Replacing by
values.
mean.
Replacing by mean. Okay.
Based on
Anything?
situation, mean or median.
Based on situation, mean or median?
Yeah, maybe mean, median, and mode. I think that maybe the best way. I think if we have a lot of data, to maybe to ignore those
I
rows.
think if we
I
have
think
a
for
like categorical data, we can replace with mode. Either mean will be.
Okay.
Or
for
maybe
numeric data, we go for the mean, and the categorical data we go for mode here. So for X, we go for the mode.
Okay. So for numeric data, we could go with mean, otherwise we could go with mode. These are some of the options. Of course, the most simplest option, if the amount of missing value is less. If it is very less, then a very simple solution could be, which is commonly used in certain applications when the percentage is less, is just remove those records. So you remove the records, and what you are seeing here is the resultant data. And we like to see what happens when we do such a thing like removing of the record. So if we remove those records, this was the entire data. You can see that the row number R6 and then R8 and R9 have been removed, and what you are seeing here are the rest of the data. Now, when we remove records or samples, then and we see what is the class distribution, you can see that C1, the class earlier had samples, it's still earlier class distribution, then nothing was C1, 3 and 6 samples. After doing this, what we obtained, one is still having 3 samples. C is actually now having samples, which you can that is in R2, R3, and then R and R10.
Ma'am, your voice is breaking, so we are not able to understand.
Okay.
Voice is
Okay. Give me a minute.
Meanwhile, one question. So we did not see the last class Durga ma'am's recording. Is there already uploaded?
Yes, it's already
Yes,
there.
yes, it is uploaded.
Under
Okay.
cloud tab, cloud recording tab.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
one more thing, I did not get the invite for today's class. I came to know from the WhatsApp group.
Yeah, same thing for me. I got the notification
Right.
after 6 minutes around.
As suggested last time, we won't be getting any invitation. It will be in the notification section of the LMS.
Week that from this week on, we won't be blocking your calendars. You will have to go to the LMS itself, and as explained in the LMS orientation, you can access the link for today's class. And going forward, that will be the process.
Okay, that will be through LMS only.
Yes, everything you have to log in now through LMS itself.
Okay.
Will there be any invitation if there's no blocking of calendar to LMS?
It's all there on your LMS calendar itself. Your invitations and all are there on your LMS calendar.
Ma'am, what if suppose we are facing any problem in accessing our LMS? We won't be able to access the class, right?
Folks, maybe I can share something that I have done personally that can help maybe. What I have done is I have imported the calendar link from the LMS, right? And I have added to my...
Everyone, we can discuss it in the last. Could you please
We can
concentrate
do
on
that maybe
that?
and take it up. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
So please let me know if you are able to now hear me properly.
Yeah.
Is it better?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Ma'am, can you go back and show us the problem data? Yes, R6. Okay.
okay, so I'll start from here.
What is C1 and C2?
Okay. So here this is a numeric data, and C1 and C2 are the two class labels. You can see here that it has got 5 variables in this data. There are 10 samples having 5 variables A1, A2, A3, A4 and A5, and X is the class label. So there are two class labels C1 and C2, and there are 3 rows having class label C1 and 6 rows having class label C2. As you can see here, R1, then R4 and then R7, all 3 of them have class label C1, and then you can see R2 and so on and so forth till R10. 6 of these are having class label C2. Is it okay?
So there are 10 variables, 2 classes, and what about A1 to A5?
No, there are not 10 variables. You can think of these 10 as 10 samples.
10 samples, okay.
Okay. And there are, for each of the samples, there are 5 variables.
Okay, 5 variables. Okay.
Yeah. And this is the class label, which is X. For each sample, the class label is also given, which could be C1 or C2. Is it okay now?
Can we convert this example into some real-time example in order to just make sure that our brain should connect the dots?
Understand it
I-
better.
I will show you more example. As of now,
Okay.
let me just proceed, and then we, if you still are not able to get, then then we can discuss, take up more examples. Okay. So right now you just assume, say for example, these R1, R2, R3 till R10 are values that have been taken from 5 different temperature sensors deployed over 10 days. The first day is called R1, R2 like that, and the 10th day is called R10. Okay. And these are 5 sensors that are deployed at 5 different locations, let's say in some field or somewhere. And then this is the class label defining finally. Now, let's say that in this data, we have got 5% missing values. So in total, there are 6 into 10, 60 values. 3 of them are missing. So we have 5% missing values. And we need to decide how to resolve these values. Now, how can we handle? As I said, that the most simple method to resolve missing values is just to remove these records. These are having the missing values. So we can see here the record number or the row number R6, R8 and R9. These 3 are having missing values. We simply remove them. Now the question is whether the removal of values could be a good solution or not. Now the answer to this question is that if the percentage of missing values is very less, then there's no harm removing those samples that are having the missing values. But as we increase the percentage, so in this case, if we remove, let us see how the distribution of the class changes. So initially, as I said, there were 3 samples belonging to class C1 and 6 of them belonging to C2. So C2 was the majority class. Now, after we remove the rows containing missing values, which are shown in the highlight, what we obtain are 7 records, R1, R2, R3, R4, R5, R7, R10. So if we look at the class distribution, the value in X, we see that there are 3 samples having class label C1, which means that the number of samples having class label C1 before removing the records and after removing the missing value records are still the same. But if we look at class C2 initially had 6 samples. Now, after removing the records having missing values or removing the samples having the missing value, the number of samples left are 4, right? And therefore, we are incurring almost a 30% loss. I'm saying 30% because out of 10, 3 rows are lost. So, on an average, 30% data is lost. But the majority class was earlier, before removing these rows, was C2, and after doing it is still C2 only. Okay. Now, that was when we had just 5% missing data initially, for which we removed 3 rows from the data. Now, suppose we have same data in which 10% values are missing. Okay. So you can see here 10% of the values are missing here. So 6 values are missing out of 60 values across these 10 rows and 6 variables, including the class label. And now the solution that we had studied was removing the records or removing those particular rows containing missing values. In this case, the row R3 has a missing value, R5 has, R6 has, R8 has, and R9 has. Okay. And so as per this solution, what we will do is remove all those rows that are having missing value so that our analysis goes in the correct fashion. So I'll just complete this and take the questions. Till then, please wait for me. So now, initially, the distribution of the classes was C1 3 and C2 6. After removing these rows having missing values, we can see here that the number of samples having C1 as the class label, how many are there? R1, then R4, and then R7. All three of them have C1. So it is still left at C1 equal to 3. Whereas the number of samples having class label C2, you can see how many they are, row R2 and then row R10. So only 2 are left, right? So now you can see that by removing the samples having missing values, what have we done? We have obtained a new data set in which the class distribution has changed. Earlier, C2 was the majority class. Now C1 has become the majority class. And now you can see the total amount of loss in data is 50%. And the important thing to note is we have actually changed the overall distribution of the classes in the data, which is not a good thing to do. No matter how we treat the data, the overall class distribution must not change so much that the majority class becomes a minority class. Okay. So, probably doing away or removing those samples having missing value may not be a very good option. So now I can see 2 hands raised. So it is Ambalika. What question do you have? Followed by Meghna.
Yes, ma'am. So my question was, like you said, if the suppose you consider 5% as a lesser value and 10% as a higher value. So is there a threshold where we could say that at this level, it's okay that we could discard the values?
Okay. So, of course, there's no fixed answer. It depends on what application it is. In certain applications, each and every value may be very critical. Say, for example, in medical data or in safety critical systems. For example, we are talking about launching a missile at some particular location and the image is having lot of, for some reason, some missing pixel values. In such cases, it may not be a good idea to remove such samples having missing values. But in certain other cases, it may be okay. For example, if we are taking a video, it's comprising of a lot of images, right? Video is nothing but a sequence of images. Let's say we are having some set of people who are doing some chatting and we are taking their images, and what is changing is maybe their lips are moving in different fashion and so on and so forth. So in such cases, it may be okay to remove some samples. So there's no fixed definition as to what is the total amount of samples we can remove. It depends on the application, how critical the data is and all that. But if the percentage of missing values is low, then it is possible. Otherwise, it is not possible, definitely. Okay.
Got it, ma'am.
So who was the next one who had raised
This
the
is
hand?
me, Meghna.
Okay,
So,
Meghna.
Yeah, so in this data set, this looks like, I mean, as this has a class level, this could be a classic example of a classification problem, right? So in this type of, missing value, remember, is it very specific to this type of problem solution, or it could be generic, right? Because when we say like that, we are trying to balance the distribution of the classes, so it fits well for such classification problem. But other way around, is it a generic scenario for rest of the use cases or algorithms or data sets as well?
Okay, so definitely it is a generic example only. Mostly what you would see is, and I'll show you more examples as we go along, that when we talk about filling of missing values, or it's also called imputing missing values, generally speaking, uh, filling values may be a good option, but removing the samples containing the missing values may not always be a good way to handle such missing values. As I'm showing here, this is a very small example, but most of the real world data sets would be much larger, having lot of variables and other things. And therefore, the impact of removing samples will only increase. So this is a generic example only, though I've shown it with the help of this numeric data. Okay.
And ma'am, a follow-up question then, like if we really don't have a threshold value, is there a way to gauge like how much of this removal is impacting the main data set? Is there a way with which
Yes.
we can analyze and take a decision if whether
Yeah.
it's a good way or not? Yeah.
Yes. Definitely there are ways. There are different ways. Visualization of the data is one way, which I'm going to show you shortly. There are other ways also. For example, after removing the sample, suppose we classify the data, then the performance of the classification will be quite low. For example, the accuracy, precision, recall, etc., which we'll study as we go along, they will not be coming out to be good. So there are ways to infer whether removing the samples is good or not. And the most common way is to try to visualize the data. Okay. Okay, maybe one last question I'll take before proceeding, and then at the end I'll take the questions so that we can complete the portion that we want to. Any other question? Quick question? Okay. Okay, so now in this particular case, as I said that here we are having some 10% rows and we remove them, and of course we change the class distribution, right? Here the C2 was the majority class, it has now become the minority class. Now we look at yet another example where again we are having 10% missing values, 10% of the data is missing, and we are going to remove those samples containing the missing values. Now, when you actually try to do this, we are going to remove row R3, then row R5, R6, R8, and R9. So, any comments? If we remove these rows, then what will happen? If anything is to happen.
Complete C1 related data is lost, ma'am.
Exactly. So what I want to say is, in certain cases, when one of the class is having lesser amount of data, right? It is a imbalanced class problem where for one class there is less data and for the other class there is more data. It is possible that one of the classes completely gets lost. So C1 is gone completely. All we are left with is C2 only in this particular case if we remove the samples containing missing values. So, therefore, definitely, as the percentage of missing values increases, removing such samples is not a good solution because it is leading to loss of data. It is also, it can also change the overall class distribution, like majority class becomes minority class and vice versa. Or it can also lead to loss in the class at completely, as you are seeing here, and then classes can be lost and some other classes will be left out. Okay. Now I'm going to show you some visual plots to make things more clear, as some of you already mentioned. So let's take an example of a data set. It's just a data set having 50 points, and there are 2 variables in it and 1 class label. So in total, there are 3 variables, including the class label. And the class label has 2 values only. So it's a binary class data. Okay. So now I'm going to show you the visualization of this data. I've chosen the data in such a way that actually data is organized. So you can see this rectangular data space. The data is spread out in a 9x9 grid, as you can see here. I hope it is clear to all of you, 9x9 grid. And in this grid, actually, data is distributed. You can see the natural groupings with the help of the visualization. So there are 3 clusters in the data, as you can see here. The one that is shown in the navy blue color, the one that is shown in the cyan color, and the one that is shown in the dark green color. And then there are certain points which are kind of lying equidistant to the dark green and the cyan color and all that stuff. And there are some outlier points also which are far away. For example, this red cross out here. So these are in total 50 points. And here the majority class is class C0, because you can see that class C0, so cluster 1 has samples belonging to class C0, and cluster 3 is also having samples belonging to class C0. So all these navy blue points and the cyan points together make up cluster C0. The rest of these points are cluster C1. And you can see very easily that C1 is smaller than C2. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to induce missing values in this data. Okay. And what I've induced is a 10% missing values. So if you look carefully, you can see there are certain points which are there in the original data. And after inducing the missing values, this data is looking different. See, if you look at these blue dots and these cyan triangles, you see that there are lesser amount of triangles and lesser amount of dots and all that, because I've induced missing values in it by removing 10% of the data. This 10% of the data has been removed from the variables which are not the class labels. So anything minus the class label can have missing values, right? Then there are anomalies here, you can see in the data. Then there are boundary points which are equidistant from both of the clusters, the dark green cluster and the cyan cluster. So this cyan is part of cluster 1. Which is class 0 kind of a cluster. Now you can see that some of the points are missing. Now, this is just to make things more visually clear that the original data points that I have removed are actually shown by these pink crosses. So these are the points that I have removed from the data to create a data having 10% missing values. Okay. Now we are going to do different things on this data. Let's start out first. So initially in the data, what you are seeing are 10% missing values. Now what I've done is, I've gone ahead and induced 20% more missing values, such that class 0 has 15 samples and class 1 has 9 samples in the data now. So now we are imagining that we have a data which is having 30% missing values, such that class 0 is now having 15 samples in the data and class 1 has 9 samples. Okay, now initially, if you look at the class distribution, right, so there are 50 points, and you can see here that class C0 is the majority class and C1 is the minority class. Now, after removing missing values, so what you can see here, that we are having C0 having 15 samples and C1 having 9 samples. So still the distribution is remaining the same. And the majority class earlier was class C0 and still it is C0. Okay. Now, you can see here that the overall distribution of the points remains the same, but there are lesser number of points because we have removed, because we are assuming that 30% of the data is missing. Okay. Now, what are we going to do? Suppose now, what I want to show here is that when we had 30% missing values, then in this particular case, class C0, still had still is the majority class, whereas class C1 is the minority class. So even though when there were missing values, in this particular case, it may be a special case that the overall class distribution is still remaining the same. Now, let's take another example where there are 35% missing values and we are removing the corresponding records. When we are removing the corresponding records, in the previous case, the class distribution was remaining the same. It was just a chance or whatever it was. However, now when 35% of the missing values, wherever they were, those rows have been removed, then what we saw was that class C0 went missing. You can see here, none of the samples containing class C0 as the class label are there, whereas what we are left with is only class 1. Right. So here class C0 has just disappeared because what we did was that we had 35% missing values in the data and we adopted the simplest method, do nothing, just remove those samples. When we remove the samples, then what we are obtaining is a completely different class distribution where there is only one class. Or in other words, removing samples from entire samples from the data may not be a very good method to resolve missing values. We should resolve them in some other way. So I can see a hand raised. Venkat, do you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. So my question is whether this clustering was done after the data points were removed, because maybe if we remove the missing values in a certain way, maybe the before which was assigned as class 0 might have which was there in cluster 3 might have got into cluster 2 because all of them are showing in green boxes.
Okay. So these clusters actually, okay, let me just go back slightly. So the clusters that you are seeing here, I have not performed any clustering. I just wanted to show that these points, this is just a distribution of the points, and what you are seeing are just natural groupings that are available in the data. There has been no clustering algorithm that has been applied. So what I've done is just taken the points and plotted them on this, because there are only two axes, X and Y. So we can make a 2D plot out of these points. When we make the points, this is the distribution that we get. So yet there is no clustering done on it, and therefore no movement of the points would have taken place across the clusters. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now,
Ma'am, what is precisely the boundary points?
Okay, so I'll go back here. Boundary points are those points you can see in this orange color. So if you think, so this is a cluster, right? The dark green one, and the cyan color out here, the light blue kind of a color, is also part of another cluster. So boundary points are those which are kind of equidistant from each of these. So they, these are points with which there is some ambiguity associated, to which a cluster we have to assign them. Whether should we assign them to the class C1 cluster or to the class C0 cluster, because they are equidistant. If we had a center of this cluster, then these are kind of equidistant from both of them. Therefore, they are called boundary points. Is it okay?
Yeah, got it, ma'am.
Okay, Meghna, what is the question that you have?
Ma'am, so this type of plot, like conventional is a scatter plot, and it's done between two numeric matrices. Like, for example, the example is shown like A1 to A5, we can do between say two columns. But when we need to compare across, like say A1 to have all the combination till A5, right? Then how we derive into a consensus?
Okay, are you talking about the visual plots here? That
Yes,
how
yes.
how visual plots can be done?
Yes, because when this attribute 1 and attribute 2, when we are seeing the cluster distribution, right, it's done between only two numeric matrices, right,
Right.
upon removal of various rows based on missing data. But when we need to do across like A1 to A5, we need to compare each and every points, right? So then how we derive to that one,
Yeah.
summary.
Yeah. So Meghna, this particular plot that I'm showing is on not on that particular data that were having 5 different variables. This is just having 2 variables, and I explained to you, right? This you are clear. Now, what I understand from your question is, see, so this is another data set that I've taken, which has 50 points. It has 2 variables plus a class label, and there are 2 values in the class variable. So this is an alternate data set. But yes, your question is correct that if we had 5 variables, then how do we do the plots? It's not possible. So I will show you in the next weekend EDA techniques and some other techniques where you will be able to visualize this kind of data also. Okay, so you'll have to wait till then. I will show you how to do that. Okay, Shri Hari, what is the question that you have?
Why do we need to classify class 0 for cluster 1 and 3, ma'am?
Why do we need class 0 for cluster 1 and 3?
Yeah.
Okay, so we are assuming that in this data there are 2 clusters. So when we are assuming this distribution, this is the original distribution. So these two set of points are all together. So they are assumed to be part of one class. And all these points, actually, though, if we were to form 3 clusters, so okay, your question is that why is class 0 there on cluster 1 and on
3.
cluster 3? Yeah,
Yeah.
so this is just the data distribution, whatever it is given. So in the data, the points are given in such a way that the points of the cluster 1 are having class label class 0, and those also in class 3 are having class label class 0. That's why they are shown like this. So it purely depends on what is, we haven't derived the class labels. They are all given to us. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take 1 or 2 quick questions and then proceed and take the questions at the end. So Kushagra, what is the question that you are having, followed by Sumitra?
Yeah, just one small doubt.
Yeah.
So you said when we have like some missing data in our data set, then still the class distribution is maintained. Like my doubt is like if we have, for example, 70 to 20 ratio for C1 and C2, and then after some missing values, we have like 35 to 20 ratio. But still that is a problem, right? Like we cannot simply remove the like points from the data set, because although there is a majority, but the majority amount has decreased significantly. So is that a bad?
Yeah, definitely. What you're saying is correct. That when we remove the samples, it is possible that the majority class still remains majority class, but the distribution can become skewed. So therefore, it is a problem and it's not good to remove. Even when the distribution means the overall majority class still remains the majority class, still it is not a good solution to remove the samples. Also, we are also losing data, right? There might be some important information in these points that we are losing. Okay. Sumitra, what did you want to ask?
Ma'am, my question is like, how do we define this boundary points, which is in orange, and why it is not coming under any cluster?
See, we haven't defined any boundary points. While doing this plot for the points, I just wanted to show that these points are actually kind of equidistant from this green, dark green cluster and this light blue cluster. Since they are equidistant, they can be assigned to any of these, right? So therefore, I've just left them as boundary points. So these boundary points, because they are almost at the same distance with respect to these 2 clusters, they can actually be assigned to any one of them.
Okay.
That's all I wanted to show. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Now let us proceed. So therefore, as we discussed that removing of samples could change the class distribution, reduce the data. Even if it doesn't change the class distribution, it can still lead to skewedness in the data, or it can lead to removal of the class, and so on and so forth. So therefore, it is not a good way to remove missing values, and we need to do something else. There should be some better way to resolve the missing values, so that the distribution in the data is not hampered. Okay. Now, what can be some other simple solution? So I think there was a discussion that if there is a numeric, if you are having numeric data, then there could be some other solutions. Like for example, we could have some default value being filled. Let's say we are having these 5 missing values, and we decide upon a default value. Whenever there's a missing value, we just fill in that default value, and then our data is complete and we can use it. So is it okay to do that? Anyone?
I don't think so, because I think, can you go to the previous slide?
Default value for every attribute should be decided rather than for all.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so. It looks like A3, like there are a lot of missing values. Maybe that feature itself, right? We can remove and proceed. I think that would be a bit thing, because it's like 50% of time, right? It doesn't have any values.
Okay, so removing of the variable A3 may be a good option. So
Of A3 is a good option if we are not defined a label onto the A3 and it's not significant, then we can get rid of.
So the thing is that, please remember that whenever you are trying to remove something, then you are also leading to loss in information. Of course, there are lot of missing values. Still, those which are there can be containing important information, right? Just imagine if it is a disease data and there are patients, and it might be some particular test which is getting recorded here. For those patients, this test was not done, therefore it had missing values. But those which are thought to be positive, this test was done and the values were accordingly filled in. So actually, the person who created the data, for whosoever person who looked healthy, the test was not done, and therefore it was left as such, not having any value. And those which are having values are actually those people who are having certain symptom, and they have been made to go through some clinical test, and those values are put there. So if you remove this column, then some important information can be lost actually. So it is not a good idea to remove the samples or to remove columns as such. So this is a general comment. However, if you find that the column is useless and it does not contain information that adds any value to further analysis, then you can remove. Then it's okay to remove. Okay, Rajat, I see that you have raised a hand.
Yeah, in case it's a categorical data for all the missing values, we can create a new category and give it a new label, say 10,
So
4.
So you want to create a new category and give a new label to it. Is that what you are saying?
Yeah, rather than removing the column.
Okay. So if we are having categorical data or whatever kind of data, we could give it some value and then create, a new category in itself, something like that. That was a solution that was discussed, and I'll come to that solution as we go along. As of now.
Ma'am?
Yes.
This is Venkat. So the first step should be to know about the variable if it has some context, so that based on the context we can assign the variables, like assign the values, whether like the context you have given, we can directly assign the value, some default value.
Okay, so what I'll say is it is important to know whether the variable is contributing and it's not a redundant or a useless variable. It's a significant variable. If it is significant for the analysis, we retain it. But if the variable, it does not add much value to further analysis, we can remove it. And I'll show you in the next few lectures how to do that. As of now, you just assume that you can do it, and therefore, you can decide whether to keep or remove the variable. Is that okay?
Okay.
Or was there any other question that you had in addition to this?
No, ma'am. Got it.
Okay. Okay, I'll take these quick questions and then let's move on. Navya Shri, you have question?
No, I don't have a question, but we can impute with the median if it is continuous, which does not affect outliers.
Okay.
Removing the call by, I mean, if it is a significant variable, we can impute the median value of
Okay. Okay. So median can also
order.
be used. Okay. So I'll discuss that case as well as we go along. Okay, Jaskaran, you have a comment or do you want to ask something?
Just a comment, ma'am. I think with median we can even do duplication. So we can, let's say, assume take a row where we have good amount of data and duplicate it for this, and then see how the clustering is happening. Is it impacting or is it making data?
Okay. So median may be a good option to use, and I will come to that case slightly later, just a few slides away. Okay. Okay. You have a question?
Yeah,
Bhagat?
I have not a question but a comment. So basically, like there is one concept of forward fill and backward fill actually. Filling of the value which is above that particular row and filling the value which is below that particular row. So that would be one of the solution which could fill up this missing value in the cells actually.
That could be a solution provided the upper or the lower rows or the successive rows are interrelated. If they are all independent, then that is not a solution.
Okay.
Okay, Shashank, this last question I'll take and
Yes,
then we'll move ahead. Yes, Shashank?
Yeah, ma'am, I also have a comment only.
Mhm.
So we can also find a pattern by plotting the features. If they are making any pattern, like suppose there could be a linear curve that is getting formed by plotting these values, we can take a next linear value and we can fill in that place. Or some suppose quadratic equation is getting formed, we can take those values and we can fill in. So
Correct.
that is one way. And the other solution that came in my mind is we can also try inducing some missing values. So by making that blank value, we can look for some available options like whether the mean is giving us closer to that value or median is giving closer to that value. If that is helping us in getting the actual value, then probably we can take that approach and fill our other values as well.
What was the last part? Can you please go over again?
Yeah,
I
suppose
just...
if we'll take A1, right?
Mhm.
Suppose A1 row 9 is, let's take A2. We have one missing value in R9, okay?
Mhm.
And we want to get an approach. Now what we can do is we can just remove R2 value, that is 4.
Mhm.
Okay, and then we can take R1 and R3 and we can look for some like average of R2 or R1, R3 or
Okay.
R1, or we can look for median or mode or any other mean. If that is coming close to the actual R2 value, that is 4, then probably that can help us in taking an approach with which we can
Okay.
get the value for the R9.
Okay. Okay, so choosing mean, median, mode, or some other probable value, we will discuss as we go along. Yes, these are options that can be discussed. Okay, Rajat, is there anything you wanted to say?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, how about for column A3? We can do a random sampling, taking all the values which are there, then generating a random sample and filling the missing values.
Okay. Now, random sampling may not always be a good option to fill in missing values because, as I said, that it purely depends on how critical the information is in the column. For example, let's say that this A3 is the value of a sensor that has been deployed at a point, in a manufacturing unit where it is measuring a temperature, and if it goes very high, then in that particular case, it could lead to explosion or something like that. Now, in all such cases, if we fill in some random value, then it could lead to a wrong analysis. And because in such systems, safety is very important. There could be a risk of life of the personnel working around. So we cannot just take random values and think that it is a foolproof method, right? So again, filling random values may not be a good option to adopt.
Thank
Okay.
you so much, ma'am.
Maybe we
Yeah.
can take help of other variables and decide the value of, let's say, A3 on the basis of A1, A2, A4, A5, as much as clearer we can get.
Again, so we are coming up with some very interesting solutions. What you're saying is correct, as long as A1, A2, and A4, let's say if we are talking about a missing value in A3, if A1, A2, and A4 are somehow related to the value of A3, then only we can look at the value of these three variables to infer the value of A3. But if all the variables, they are containing values which are independent of each other, then we cannot find that out, right? To give an example, again, I'll, return back to the same thing. Let's say I'm having some 4 sensors which are getting deployed, and they are measuring temperature in 4 different rooms. And these rooms, or I can say 4 different locations in a large building, and these locations are quite far apart. Therefore, by looking at the temperatures, I should say that let me just change this a little bit, because again, temperature of one location, I mean, as long as the place is the same, it's going to be similar. So I'll say it's a manufacturing unit, and these units, there are different units on which these 5 sensors have been deployed, naming A1, A2, A3 till A5. And now, because these are different parts of the manufacturing unit, A1 is measuring some other thing, A2 is measuring some other thing, A4 is measuring temperature of some other component, A5 is measuring temperature of a totally different component. So, since all of these components, if there's a situation that they are independent in the manufacturing unit, then we cannot infer the temperature of A3 based on all these values. But if A1, A2, A4 or A5, or if not all, some of them are related somehow to the temperature that is coming in the A3 sensor, then we can do that. So it depends, that particular thing.
Ma'am, but
Okay.
if they are related, if they are not independent, then we can directly drop the A3, right? Because we only need the independent variables in our model.
What are you saying? That if they are independent, then
If they
only
are,
we keep.
if they are not independent, then there would be no use of A3, right? Because in regression models, we consider only independent. We assume that they are independent.
No, that may or may not be correct. In certain cases, all the variables may be independent and it's important. In certain other cases, dependence is important to consider, and we cannot just drop. For example, let's say that I'll take a completely different example now. The situation that you are saying is that if A3 is not independent, then we should not consider it, right? That's what you are saying, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. If it is dependent on other variables, then anyway the other variables would explain the predictive variable or
Okay.
prediction.
Say, for example, let's consider a case where A1, A2, A3, A4, and A5 designate some keywords. Okay. Now, or I can say some topics in text, not keywords. Let's say A1 refers to entertainment, A2 refers to something else, A3 refers to sports, and so on and so forth. There are 5 different topics. Now, uh, so what can happen is that now these topics may be correlated also like there might be some intersection also. So if you are saying that they are independent, only we retain, it may not be correct. For example, there might be certain topics in entertainment that might be common with sports, because sports is also a mode of entertainment. So if you remove that particular column thinking that it is kind of dependent or it is interrelated with some other, so you may lose information. You might lose information. So we cannot just offhand say like this that if it is independent, it's good, or if it is dependent, it's good. No, we cannot say this till we do some further drill down in the data.
Okay,
Okay.
so it might be like partially some of the data of the A3 may be explaining why, which is not like maybe depending on the other columns. Like partially there might be data which is adding additional information.
Yeah, yes, that could be true. Okay, Gunjan, do you have something?
Yeah, ma'am. Just want to understand very basic question, and I'm not sure about the independent or the dependent variables. So, missing values. What's the harm equating it to 0?
Okay. What's the harm equating it to 0? So that's similar to the case where we put some default value, right? That default value could be anything. It could be 0 also. Do you agree?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'll take this case. Just the consequent slides have that case, that we'll put some default value, say 0 or something, in the missing values and see if it is harmful or it is not harmful. Okay, so you'll have to just wait for some more time. Fine?
Okay.
Okay, now let me proceed. So
Ma'am,
as
sorry,
yeah.
ma'am. Sorry to bother, disturb, interrupt. So, in this scenario, can we run a retest for A3 and consider those missing inputs?
Can we run a what?
Can we rerun the test and consider the missing inputs?
Well, see, the missing data can be acquired if we are generating the data. But here we are assuming that there is some external source from where the data is getting recorded. As I gave you an example that we are having 5 different temperature sensors, right? And this R1, R2, R3 till R10 are 10 different days over which the values of these 5 temperature sensors were recorded. Now, in such a scenario, we cannot, regenerate, or we cannot generate the data just by rerunning or by doing anything, because these are sensors that were measuring and those values are not there for whatever reason. Okay. If we are doing a data simulation, then we can do a rerun and try to simulate something which is for which there are no values. But not in all cases we can do that. Right?
Ma'am, can we try any non-parametric, like non-param? I might be jumping the gun here. Non-parametric form of equation like decision tree, because we don't know sure about the relationship, and then find the like that variable.
There can be different ways. Decision tree could be a way, but again, to draw the decision tree, you need these values, isn't it? How will you draw a tree when the values are not there?
No, the decision tree will be made for all the available values. A3 will be predicted based on other columns, and then when we test the data, we will feed the input and it will give the output. So those output will be used, like that kind of thing.
Okay, so let me tell you that decision tree is only going to predict the class variable. In this case, I told you already that there is one class label. A3 is not a class variable. It is a, of course, we'll discuss it in more details in the subsequent chapters or sections, but A3 is not dependent on the values of A1, A2, A4, A5 and all, right? Therefore, you cannot infer A3 by looking at values of A1, A2, A4, A5 and all that stuff, right? And also, because it is independent, you cannot use it as a class label and then infer the class label using the rest of them. It is just an independent variable on its own. So you come back to the example that I said, that let's say I've got 10 days over which I'm measuring this 5 different temperature values on sensors deployed at 5 different locations. And then I infer what is going to be the climate of the day, climate on that particular day. Now, to do that, I cannot do it the other way around, that I look at the climate value, I look at the values of temperature in other sensors, and then find out what will be the temperature here. We can't do it like that because it is a independent variable. It is not dependent on others. Therefore, we cannot find out its value based on the others. Okay.
What about, ma'am, then mean and median? Like there are direct mean and median imputation, and there is one we can do by category as well. Suppose there is one categorical column like male and female, and there is a column in weight in which the weight is missing. So what one approach is that impute the column like male missing value with the male weight and average weight mean, and the female with that category wise. So these two I can think of.
Yeah, surely. So I will take up all these examples. So let us proceed so that we can come to some of these examples, right? So the first thing I think Gunjan said, why not fill up missing values with some default value, say 0 or whatever it is, right? So I'm going to take this. I'm going to take all the cases, whatever have been pointed out one by one, including mean, median, mode, and all those stuff. So let's start with the most simple example, simple case, where we fill in a default value. Okay. So now this is a simple thing, like for example, I've got these missing values. It could be any value. I've just written 100. It could be 0 also, as Kunjan pointed. It could be 10. It could be 50, 20, anything. Okay. Now, when I'm filling in these missing values, then, you can see that here there is a possibility that you are creating a new kind of a category on its own. So I'll explain it more in more detail with the help of the next example. So now we are having, you remember I showed you a data, this data set, having 50 points and 2 class labels, class 0 and C1. And besides the class label, there are these variables X and Y. Okay. And let's assume that there are 20% missing values in the data, out of which the missing values in the column X and column Y are equal. That is 50-50% missing values. So out of 20% missing values, 10% would be in the column X, the other would be in the column Y. And we are also assuming that there is only one missing value per row. This is just for visualization purpose. However, you could have 2 missing values also. Okay. So now what I have done is that in this particular case, the example that we were considering was replace all the missing values with a default value. In this case, I have taken a default value 10. Why I have taken 10 is because we are considering a data space which is like a 10 cross 10 rectangular space. So I just took some value. It could be anything. It could be 0, 1, 2. It could be 100. It could be 1000. I just took some value to show you what happens. So now what I've done is filled in all the missing values in this data. I already mentioned there are 20% missing values, out of which 10% in column X, 10 in Y. And I filled in all those missing values with a default value of 10. Now, after doing that, I'm trying to plot the data. And this is the plot that is coming out. You can see here that some of the points will have 10 in their Y value. You can see here the X value is the same, but the Y value is 10 for some points which are missing. Whereas for some other points where X value was missing, it is filled as 10, comma, whatever the value is there. So now what comments do you make on this graph where I've used some default value to fill in all the missing values? So is it a good method? So I think Gunjan will comment first. Is it a good method, Gunjan?
No, ma'am, but miss, based on the data, we should be predicting something. Like it's here, it was 1, 2, 3. So in the range of there, we can assume as 0. If data is something like 100, 200, something like that. So that was my thought process.
Okay. So what I want to point out here is adding some default values can change the data distribution. You see, this was the original data distribution,
Yeah, that's correct.
right? This one. You can see there was a group of points here, there were a group of points there, and all that kind of stuff. Now, after using this method of filling in by a default value, what has happened is that the entire data distribution has changed, and we are having a new cluster kind of a thing here, which never existed in the data. So you have actually changed the characteristic of the data. So if we do missing value imputation, or we fill in missing values in such a way that the data distribution changes, then it's not good, because we don't want to touch the data distribution. We only want to fill in the missing values, but the overall data distribution should still remain the same. Here, some new kind of data cluster is getting generated by just because of filling in of a default value. So therefore, filling of default value may not be a good option. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Then so this means that filling of missing value definitely is not a good option. Then what else can we do? I think there were several people talking about filling in of a mean value. So let's talk about this. Let's assume that there are around 20% values that are missing in the given data, and we are going to use the mean value to fill in these missing values, right? So now for this purpose, I have taken some other data set. Again, this data set is also having 50 points, and it is having two clusters in them, shown in these two colors. And the class labels are C0 and C1. So two different class labels for two different clusters are shown here. Okay, so this is the natural grouping in the data, which is shown by the help of the visualization. And now what I want to do, I want to look at the missing values, and then I want to fill in using mean value. So now what I have done is that I've created some missing values in this data just for the purpose of experiments. You can see here by the movement of the points, many of these points have gone missing, and from here also they have gone missing, right? So we have created our data that is containing 20% missing values. Okay. Now, what are we going to do? We are going to, so this is just a comparison. This is the original data. And from this data only, I wanted to have a realistic data having 20% missing values in it. You can see what is the difference. There's a large amount of difference between the data points of the original data versus this new data, right? In which, we have some around 20% missing values. Now, as we discussed earlier, that mean could be a good option to fill. So what I have done is, all the missing values have been filled in by the mean value. Okay. And when we try to fill in by a mean value, then what happens is that mean gets filled up in all those places or in all those cells wherever there was a missing value. So we are having a missing value somewhere in this particular point, which might be having some particular value on the x-axis, for example, 2 probably, and this is the y-axis. So what we have done, we have just filled in all the missing values with some value, which is the mean. So now you can see here, filling with mean itself, I think many of you discussed the option of filling with mean. So you can see here, is it a good option to fill with mean? And we have just considered 20% missing data. It could be more also. Yes?
No.
Yeah, it's not a good method, right? So filling in using a default value is very parallel to filling in with a mean value, because mean is also a constant, right? And when we try to fill this data with mean, then what we are creating, we are just creating some points on our own. So we are creating some fictitious data distribution which did not exist when we did not fill the mean. Therefore, filling in missing values using mean, general mean, may not be a good option. So I think many of you discussed this. So in that regard, I am just pointing it out to you that it may not be a good option. In certain cases, it may be a good option, but most generally it is not. Okay.
Ma'am, with regards
Now,
to data visualization, we are plotting between two attributes. So that means we are here talking about two columns from the data set you are representing.
so this is a alternate data set. As I mentioned earlier, it doesn't have 5 attributes. It only has 2.
Okay.
This is the one here. This is the example. It has 50 points, 2 variables and a class label. And the class label is having 2 values only, just for the purpose of
Okay, fine.
visualization and all. Okay. Now that we are done with missing values, right? Sorry, this part that, we are replacing with a default value. I already told we could be creating a new class on itself, which is not a good option. Then we are filling with mean value. And you can see here, when we try to, fill in missing values, say 20% of the data is missing, and we try to fill it with the mean value, this is what you are getting, right? And this is no way near to the, it's not close to the original data distribution. In fact, it is creating data which is actually very different from the original data. Therefore, filling in using mean may not always be a good option, okay? So then, how do we fill in missing value? We are not able to fill anything. We are not able to fill it with mean. Then what could be another simple solution? So the next simple solution is we find out the median value, okay? And then use the median to fill the missing values. So let's look at what happens. We'll take the same 50-point data set in which there are 2 clusters, right? And the class label. Here, what we have tried to do is that, we have looked at all the points, assuming that the median of the values on the x-axis as well as the values on the y-axis, both have coincidentally come out to be 12. It may or may not be 12, whatever those values are. So the median values here, because why they have come out to be 12, because this is the data space. So points are, basically if we look at the center value, it will come out to be 12 and 12. So we now are going to impute missing values using the median of that particular variable. So then after imputing the missing values with the median, what we are getting is what you are seeing here. So you can see here, for example, these 3 points in a row, they never existed, but they have come up. So these are some pseudo points that have got formed in that data set, which should not have been there. Right. So this means that filling in missing values, just the way that we are discussing that, we just fill it with some mean or a median may not be a good solution still. Then what can be some other solution? So how about using mode? So now I'm going to show you an illustration how mode can be useful, right? So now we have the same data set and we are going to use mode. Mode will be the most frequently occurring value. So if we try to look at that, we found out that 9 value is the most frequently occurring value for the variable x, and for y it is 20. And now we try to fill in missing values using these values, right? And what did we see? We saw that new clusters got created. You can see this cluster did not exist earlier, and this one did not exist. So the entire data distribution has got changed because we are filling in using mode on the data. So I think there were a lot of questions where some of you are asking that whether we can use mode to fill in value, right? Or we can use median, or we can use mean. I hope all their questions are answered. That mean, median, and mode, three of them may or may not be a good solution. Mostly it is not good. Okay, any questions?
Ma'am, here we are calculating mode for different attributes. So, are we doing same thing in mean also? I think in mean, we are getting a cumulative mean, not the attribute wise mean. I'm just confused.
Yeah, so here when you are doing a this was the median.
Median and mode
yeah,
doing
this is the
different.
mean. Yeah. So this has been done over the variables only. It is not done centrally. For example, the variable, see in this data set, there are only two variables, x and y. So for x, the mean has been found out, and for y also it has been found out. And those values are used to fill in the missing values.
It is different for X and Y. Okay, right.
Yeah, it is different for x and y. So then we talked about filling of mode also. So in mode, again, it can create some new class on itself, which is not good. It is changing, it may change the natural data distribution. So then we are done with the use of mean, median, and mode, which many of you suggested, and none of them seems to work well. Then what do we do? So we are going to use another option in
Ma'am,
which.
what about putting it with
So Ravi, I'm not able to hear the last part of what you're saying. No, I couldn't understand what you're saying, Ravi. Your voice is breaking a lot.
Ma'am, what
Can you?
ma'am, what if we replace the missing values with the nearest
Okay,
neighbor?
nearest neighbor can be used to fill. Yeah, definitely. Nearest neighbor can be a good option to fill. However, all these methods are very compute intensive, and we are still doing missing value only, missing value imputation. So therefore, we want to make it simplest. K nearest neighbor is very compute intensive, and if there are a lot of missing values, then we may not even find out the neighbors, and therefore we cannot fill the missing values using K nearest neighbor also. Okay.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, just Karan, you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. Just a doubt, like in case of images, what we see sometimes when we convert that image into a number, and let's say if one pixel gets missing, so sometimes what we use it, we replace it with the nearest value because that pixel might be very similar when you look at from the larger perspective. So is it only if is this use case only relevant with the images, or are there other methods also where data like this can be manipulated with nearest values so that on the big picture it doesn't matter that much?
Yeah, so K nearest neighbor is what the question was just before this question. Yes, definitely K nearest neighbor can be used to fill in values and all. But again, as I said that if there are a lot of missing values, then there may not be K neighbors. Then what will you use to fill? Right? There could be cases where K nearest neighbors cannot be found out because there are a lot of missing values. So if we need K number of points in the neighborhood, we won't have K number of points. We might have just 1 or 2 or K minus 1. Still, we won't have K number of nearest neighbors because there are a lot of missing values. Then how will you use it? That is the thing. But definitely, this is a method. It could be used provided you are able to cater to problems like what I have told you. Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay. So now we discuss the use of mean, median, and mode, and all three of them seem not to work very well on the data that we are discussing. Then in that case, what do we do? So I think somebody had pointed it out that we use the mean of the that particular column and fill that mean in all the samples that belong to the so we are doing two things here. One, first we are segregating the data on a class class wise basis. Let's say here we are having two classes, C0 and C1, so we'll separate out the data based on these class labels. Once we separate out the data on the basis of the class labels, then we will find out the mean of that particular feature or variable uh, you know uh, for all the records belonging to the same class and use that to fill in the missing value. Is it clear that we actually just do not take the mean like that? We divide the data based on the class labels. Once we divide the data on the basis of class labels, then we use this calculation, then we compute the mean and then use this to impute the missing values, right? Yes, Subham, do you have a question?
Yeah, ma'am, I just wanted to ask, right now you're segregating between classes and taking out mean. So initially, how did you take the mean? I mean, what was that formula there? Are we taking the whole column there and or how we are?
Yeah, whole column. It was a column mean. Now what I'm saying is,
Okay, got it, Yeah. Thank
yeah, okay. So now I once again took the same data and segregated the data based on the class labels. And then after doing that, we are going to take the mean of the rest of the values to fill in missing values. Again, we are assuming here that for the variable x, the mean is 9.19 and for class 1 and sorry, for class 0 it is 9.19, for class 1 it is 19.61. Similarly, for the other attribute, these values are given and we try to use these values, that is the values of the mean on a per class basis, and then we use these to impute the missing data. Now you can see that the imputed missing value, missing data using the mean along with the class label is a good method, is a comparatively good way of filling in missing values, because you can see that the overall distribution is not changing. Though within the cluster we are getting some points which are actually not similar to the other points but have been clubbed together. Is it okay, everyone? Any questions?
So here the clause is that we have the class labels. So for the data for which we don't have a class label, this will not be the solution. Right?
Yeah, that's correct. If we don't have the class label, then we cannot use this solution because we are using the class labels to find out the most probable, to find out that mean value. I think I saw another hand. Is it? Any other question?
So, ma'am, if the class label is you, I'm really sorry. I'm just trying to, relate this with my with the earlier things that you have told us. So, if we have class already defined, so this method is very much used when I'm going to, process data with the classification method. I know I'm going a bit far away, but I just wanted to, relate these two things. I mean, it won't work with the another clustering method, but it will work with the classification method. Is it something like that?
So here there is no classification or clustering I'm doing. Only thing is I'm using classification or clustering just for illustration purpose, right? Now in this method, which is the latest one that I've told you, that we find out the mean of all the samples belonging to the same class. So here we are using, class information, that too just to segregate the data. But other than that, there's no classification or anything happening here.
Got it, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Utkarsh, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand this class 0 mean, class 1 mean. So suppose in attribute 1, there are 4 rows for class 0 and 3 rows for class 1. So you will take
In
the mean of,
attribute 1, there are?
yeah, there are 3 rows for class 0 and for 3 rows for class 1.
Okay.
So you will be taking the mean of the entire class 1. class 0 and class 1.
No, I'm saying that you take, let's say, whatever values you are having, number of values that belong to class C0, others belong to class C1, let's
Agree.
say, in one particular column, then what we will do, we'll take the set that belongs to class C0 and use those values for a particular variable to find out the mean and use that mean to impute the data. Is it okay? So I'm segregating all the records first of all based on the classes. Okay. After the segregation has been done, then what I will do, I will look at the class label of the record which is having missing, missing values, and then consider that class and then look at the points having values in that class and use those to find out the mean for that, that set belonging to that class label and then impute that mean. Is it clear what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's getting clear. Will we have some exercise on that?
Yeah, actually I wanted to do hands-on, but I think we'll need some coding environment. Probably it may be ready in the next week. Actually, all these examples I wanted to show on Python only, but I had to just put them directly on the slide because right now it's
If you
not
can
yet
give
ready.
us some sample data as
Mm-hmm.
exercise, and we can
Mm-hmm.
find, we can do it at our side on paper to identify the mean for class 0, class 1, and then we can place it in order to see.
Yeah,
We-
sure.
Yes.
You can have, otherwise you can yourself also form. Just take some samples, try to play around, but I can also give you.
Uh,
No,
the
no.
exercise which should have result at the end so that we can match whether our approach is in the right direction or we are still
Okay.
deviating.
Okay. 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 I can do that. Venkat, do you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. So here we are doing class-wise mean, right?
Hmm.
So for training set, it is not a problem. So when we are, suppose when we built a model on top of this, using
Mm-hmm.
this method, and
Mm-hmm.
suppose in the test set there is a value of this one of the attribute missing, then
Mm-hmm.
how can we do class-wise? Uh, like how do
In
we get that value of that
okay.
attribute?
So your question is that in that case, class label is not given. So then how do we actually find out the mean, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So for
So
training set case, we can just remove the rows, I guess. But in case of test set, then how do we do that? Because test set we don't consider the class, right?
okay. So in this particular case, it is assumed that the data is given, it's having class labels and you make use of it. But if you are having a situation of a pure classification problem, right? And then you are saying that what to do when we don't have the class labels, right? The thing is that here we are already assuming that we are given the class labels. If we are given the class labels, then only we can perform this. Now, contradictory to this, you are saying that if I have to find out the class label and the class labels are not given for the test data, then how can I do the missing value imputation? So actually, you are kind of using the same thing. What should I say? Like, we are talking about using the class information to fill in missing values, right? You cannot do it other way around at this point in time, isn't it? We are already using the given class information to impute missing values. What you are saying is that if I don't have the class values, then how do I fill in missing value? You cannot
Yes.
you cannot do it because we are already assuming we are having the class labels, and on the basis of the class labels only we are going to take the mean of all the samples belonging to the same class label and then use that to fill in missing values. So already that assumption is there. So you cannot use this method when that assumption is getting failed. Okay.
So are we going to do the missing value imputation before the training and test data split? Because if we again do it later, will not be able to find the missing values in the test set.
So exactly, filling missing values or resolving the problems in the data is the first step. It is done before anything else. So by the time you will reach the stage of model creation or using the model and all that, your data should be in a very good and ready state. It should not be having missing values to be resolved at that point in time. Okay.
But won't there be any data leakage, ma'am? Because we are considering the our output variable when we are doing missing value imputation.
What are you considering? Sorry, your?
If we are considering the our output like predictive variable when doing the missing value imputation, will that not lead to data leakage?
No, it will not lead to data leakage here in this particular case because the class label anyway is given. When the class label is given, it means it is known to all parties concerned. Then what is the data leakage? This was the premise on which we started filling in missing values. So you cannot leave that aside and do something else, right? In this method, this is the starting point. So you have to go that way only. You cannot say that it's a good idea to use the class labels, but I should not be using the class labels because it may be having some sensitive information and all that stuff. So you cannot do two contradictory things at the same time, right? If you want to use the class label, you can. Yeah, yes. What is it that you want to say?
Like data leakage, by data leakage, I meant like when we are uh, for the test set, the values of any column shouldn't be derived from the y variable, right? If we are doing the missing value imputation first itself, then there is some information being captured from the y variable into our independent variables.
Okay, so we will be doing that in more details, lot of more details as we go along. So you will be able to see how we can utilize all those things. As of now, I just want to make it a little simple so that it's more clear and obvious. So we will be doing all that thing as we go along. Okay, so you don't need to worry. I will be taking specifically this case also. Okay. As of now, it is a little bit out of scope to explain because we are just looking at the simple methods and at a coarser level yet. So it is a little, it requires a little more time to come up to those concepts that you are asking, but I will do that. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am, sure.
Okay, Meghna, I think one last question and I'll
Ma'am,
just.
ma'am, okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Thanks, Sandeep. So, ma'am, one scenario towards like the similar imputation technique. So, let's suppose a scenario where we are trying to doing a forecasting based on certain, say, class levels, right? And we are basically, say, trying to predict the demand of a particular medicine, and we are taking, say, last 3 years of historical data in that case.
Okay.
Now certain years were COVID years, so we saw like lot of disparity and different trending of demand of those medicine for some exception years. Now, when we are trying to impute it based on say different class level, which are basically certain medicine names, and say we take a mean of this particular class levels across the historical data. Now, due to certain exception scenarios, the numbers could be different, the pattern could be different, right? So now considering those certain scenario, and it can fit for any use case or any kind of data, right? The exception use case. So will this type of things hold, this imputation technique will hold there, or we have to look out for some alternatives or some, SME knowledge to even like judge whether that's the right way or not? So any inputs there?
Yeah. So what you're saying is right, that if we have something, some values that have evolved or they did not exist and came into existence, right? So, so in all such cases, say for example, if we, talk about some we talk about some extreme conditions, right? So all such situations, then taking the mean done on a class-wise basis also will not work. If there are certain extreme conditions being defined in the data, right, then it will not work. It is going to work only on normal kind of data. Is that okay?
Got it, ma'am.
Okay, so let me just
Ma'am,
quickly.
quick one.
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to ask one thing.
Mhm.
Suppose we have a missing class label. So in that case, we cannot apply this solution to find out the input missing values. So is it like this? Or
What you
hello?
want to ask that if there is a class label that has missing values, then
Missing.
what should we
Okay.
do?
So can we use this method to means if the class label is missing? So can we apply this, or we can find out the alternate way or other option, other way to means, solve this
I'm
problem?
just, yeah, so I will be discussing other ways also. And if we have a, value in the class variable field that is missing, then probably we can also try to derive the class label based on the different values that are available in the rest of the variables. We can do that also. Okay. But
Okay, ma'am.
that is inferring the value in a different way, but it can be done.
So
Okay.
it is like the same, like we discussed, we pick the random value and based on that we can means, find out that
No,
means.
no. Taking random value is not a good way. It should
Okay.
not be done. Random value can change the data distribution, or it can, impact other things. So we should not be doing
But
that.
ma'am, we took an example of the temperature sensor, so definitely we must have the reports, daily reports. Based on that daily reports, we can pick those value from the old reports.
Which
Is
one?
that
Which one you are saying? Which one did you have?
Ma'am, like you have given that example of samples, temperature sensor sample.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, yeah. So definitely means if we talk about some uh, temperature monitoring or data like something like this, in that case, definitely we have a daily reports. So I thought that we can pick that data random, not a random, that old data report, and we can fill the missing data and we can calculate based on that report.
Yes,
So, yeah,
that is a good option to do, but of course this is all manual method, right? We
yeah,
are
right.
talking about automated methods.
Yeah.
So this is not an automated method, but yes, you can use the records and find out some value. In fact, this is the last thing that I'm going to come to. That, as I
Okay.
just told you, that missing values, using mean or using the class-based mean also may or may not work, as I already showed to you, right? So
Yeah.
then, here I am. Okay. So this is better definitely, but it's not so good. So then what next should we do? The next option is use most probable value to fill in the missing value. So the method that you are saying actually is that only, that you find out a probable value. To find out the probable value, it could be manual method or it could be automated. In the manual method, you are having some older data, and that older data, you are assuming that the nature of the problem is the same. So probably the value that came earlier could be used to fill in some missing value. So that is correct, but it's a manual process. So I'm not going to discuss any manual process here. Okay.
So, ma'am, manual data can't be the last resort, right?
It can be. It can be
Okay.
the last resort if it is absolutely essential and it's becoming very difficult to have an automated method. Yes, you can use that. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so
Ma'am,
much.
it's like one nearest neighbor, no?
So it may or may not be the one nearest neighbor. You're using older data. Now, how much of that older data is getting utilized to infer the value, that is not clear so far. It could be one nearest neighbor, it could be two, it could be something else also, right? Okay. So now we are talking about, we talked so many methods. We talked about removing the samples. We talked about filling default values. We talked about filling mean, median, and mode. and so on and so forth, then we also can do filling of missing values by filling the most probable value. Now, most probable value can be found out in a different variety of ways. For example, we just discussed a case where we manually find out the most probable value by looking at historical data and then, sifting through the data to find out a similar combination and then use it to fill that value. So that also can be done. But most generally, most probable value could be the mode value for that, and we should look at the mode value, that is the most probable value, on a per class basis. You cannot have a generic most probable value. So when you do that this data set, so this was the data set when we used to fill in missing values by computing mean per class and then use that value to fill in. But better still is using the most probable value. In this case, we have taken mode as the most probable value because it is the most highly occurring value. Okay. And then along with the mode, and this you can take on a per class basis. So mode is something which is occurring most frequently, and then you do it within a class. So you can find out that within the class, which is going to be the most frequently occurring value, and that you will use to fill in the missing values. And in that case, you can see here that the clusters have come out quite clear, as though they are actually natural clusters only. So this is one of the best ways, finding out the most probable value and using it to fill the missing values on a per class basis. Is it okay, everyone? Any questions? So again, this is on a per class basis only. So remember, if we try to find out the most probable value and we don't do it on a per class basis, then there'll be no meaning, because if there's a different class, the most probable value might be different. And you are trying to impute it with some other class's probable value and all that. So therefore, that is not also going to work. So if you have any questions, you can ask me, because we'll be breaking for today after this slide.
So actually, if I convert into an example, and I can have 3 classes in the sample data we have, where we place sensor across 5 cities. There could be high, low, and medium. So these could be 3 classes, and 5 variables were there. There are sensors, and there are 10 rows. How would we what do we represent with rows?
You could have the values taken over different days. You are having
days. Okay. So we need to have mode for each class, high, low, and medium, in order to find the relevant missing value. And second, we might the same will apply for high, low, medium, where we need to use the attribute mean for all samples belong to same class. Either we go for mean or mode, it would be per class basis, high, low, and medium.
So what I said was that filling in most probable value is a good way. To find out the most probable value, we will actually have to look at mode only, neither mean nor median. Why? Because mean can actually, distort the data, and then median is also a good option, but mode is the best one. So you can use the mode per class basis and use that to fill in the missing value.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Ma'am, this is Abhishek. Ma'am, I don't have a question as such, but I would just like to share something. Like some of us, we do not have a data background at all, and I think today's class is a little difficult for us to digest. Is it okay to feel like that, or are we missing out on something?
Okay, so I should say that it is normal to feel, especially if you haven't heard the terminology. You should, that is the most important thing. And I'm trying to avoid the usage of the word attribute here, which is the most common thing, write that. So, what I would suggest to you is, it is normal to feel a little bit lost because you may not have used this terminology or you don't have that background. But my serious suggestion to you is, please try to gather all this in this week, because this is just the starting point and we'll be using all this stuff all through. So
Okay.
if you don't understand it here, then you cannot understand it anything. This is probably the tip of the iceberg, I should say. Okay.
And ma'am, any of what we have discussed today will be linked for tomorrow's class. So could we
Will
brush this up again?
yes, this will be useful, but I will be taking some other concepts also. So
Okay.
you don't need to feel too much worried. Though I'll take a quick recap of it tomorrow morning just to freshen up all of you with what we are talking about today. But tomorrow I'll be talking about some other things also.
Got it. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Yes, Venki, do you have a question?
Yeah, ma'am. So, ma'am, with your experience, right, I just want to understand. So there is always a trade-off, right? If you want to impute or if you want to drop the records. If you do an imputation, it does impact the explainability of the models, right? So, so how frequent, you think in production scenario, other than expert judgment, like we take a decision to go with, like imputation of any kind?
So, it's a very tricky question though, and it's very difficult to decide to drop or to impute. But what I will say is that if you are dropping the rows or the columns, then you are likely to lose information. So, a good way is to first find out the importance or significance of that particular column. Let's say it's having a lot of missing values. You find that out and then think of doing it. So I would say that filling in missing values is usually done. It is usual case that is done before taking anything to production and doing all that stuff, and dropping the values is not so common. Does that answer your question, Venki?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I can see a question by Ravi on chat where the question is that could there be two solutions to fill the missing values at the class level, mean or mode? Only two solutions. Okay. So the question is that can there be more ways to utilize class information? Is it going to be just mean and mode and all that? No, there can be multiple ways. We are discussing all of them, right? We talked about most probable value on a per class basis. Now, this most probable value can be found out using mode, but it can be found out by other methods also. And some of you already pointed out some of those methods. So, the thing is that it's not the case that we can use only mean and mode. We can use nearest neighbor information also, as some of you pointed out. If that is possible in the data, we can do that also. Okay. I can see a raised hand and I can see some other comments. Okay, let me finish with the question of Ravi. Is there any evidence why mode is preferred or any mathematical proof out of mean and median? I'm not talking about any mathematical proof here. What I wanted to point out is that we are looking at the most probable value. So a value that is occurring maximum number of times in a given data set for a particular class, it is assumed that it is a most probable value. But there can be other ways to define most probable value or to find it out. So we can use any of these that is feasible, right? So that is what I'm saying. And talking about mean and median, so I'm not including any mathematical proof, rather I'm just doing it by, kind of rule of the thumb that you know certain facts and then use it in future. So suppose I have to fill in missing value, then I won't consider mean, because I already know that mean might create a new class on its own if the percentage of missing value is high. So we are only talking about all that stuff and not about any mathematical proofs here. Okay. So I'm talking from the practical point of view. Yes.
This is Vivek here. So can we also think of using, we can do a distribution on per class basis and see if it is a normal distribution, we can get the data within first standard deviation, or if it is
Yes.
a skewed, we can, use quantiles or IQR.
Exactly. You're right. We can do all that. That's why I said that there are mean, median, and all are not the only ways. There are a lot of ways. For example, as you rightly said, we can first look at the distribution and then use that to infer, the class label. So there are a lot of ways that's possible. Okay. Okay, Lokesh, you have a question?
Hi, ma'am. Yes, so when we are going with this probably most probable value as a mode, right? So when the data is something sequential, when we infer the data and we try to see that the data is something sequential, so mode may not be a probable solution, right? Taking a mode value. So how do we infer and how do we go on next step?
So what you want to ask is that if there is a sequential data, then how do we impute it, isn't it?
Yes, yes, yes.
It's much easier to impute sequential data rather than to impute values which are independent, because when the data is sequential, there is a connection or a pattern between the older and the newer data, and you can leverage that to find out the probable value, even if it is missing. Okay.
Okay, and also if you say it is not been repeated, like if data is not repetitive, let's leave sequential, but if it is a random values and it's not repetitive, in that case,
No, I couldn't understand. Can you please tell again?
if the data is what my question was, like if the data is getting is not frequently occurring, like the data is
Okay.
gathered,
Okay.
it's not
Okay.
frequently occurring.
Hmm.
It is all random variable and it's not repetitive.
Okay. Okay. Then how do we do it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the most probable value, finding out most probable value can be done in multiple ways, as we've been discussing for quite some time now. And one way is to find out the mode and then to use the mode. But if the data doesn't have patterns and there's no clear-cut kind of something like a mode in it. So that is the question, then what do we do? Because we are filling on the basis of mode. So the assumption here while you're using mode is that your data is such that it does have patterns which are repeating and mode is possible to calculate. But if your data is such that the data is completely uncorrelated and there's no possibility of something like a mode, then you will have to have other methods to find out the most probable value per class, say k nearest neighbor or something else. So that mode thing won't work here. Okay.
We have different ways to use it. It's not only.
Yeah. Is it okay now?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I can see Muthu. Do you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. Hi, ma'am. So in statistics, we say in case of quantitative, we use median, and in case of qualitative, we use mode, right? So does that apply here as well? Let's say in class, I see it be qualitative. In that case, if I use mode, or if it is quantitative, I use mode. Like, how would I go about?
So please remember, we are talking only about filling in missing values, right? And
Yeah.
filling in missing values is all about quantity only, right? We are not yet at the point of doing an analysis where we try to think whether should we do a quantitative or a qualitative or what. Here we are only at the starting point where we have a data that has got missing values and we want to fill out the missing values. So it has everything to do with quantity if it is numeric data, categories if it is categorical data, right? So having an information or just having a qualitative idea is not going to help filling missing values. You have to have some, that point, you need to have a quantity associated of whatever you are finding out so that you can fill that quantity for in that missing value field. Okay?
Okay. Right. Okay. Thanks, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, I think we have done whatever we wanted to do. Any last quick question? I think let me just,
Ma'am,
yeah,
I want to add something.
yeah, sure.
Ma'am, ma'am, you have taught the concept very clearly, and it's kind of clear in my head. But there's one thing that I would like. It would be more clearer if we can have a practical, approach towards it. We can see the live example, like how you have said that class 0 mean and class 0 mode and class 1 mode. So it's like imprinted in my head, but I'm not seeing it practically. So if can we do that?
Surely, as I already mentioned, that I intended to do it in the tomorrow's turn, but for that we will need a common hands-on environment kind of a thing. So I've already made that request. I think the host is already knowing, Simran is already in loop, and we've been assured probably by the next week it may be ready or whatever the inputs are that will come ahead, and accordingly we'll decide, because in this course mostly you will be having a lot of hands-on.
Yeah.
So all these examples, actually I had the code I wanted to show you, but I couldn't run it here, so I just copy pasted the outputs so that it becomes clear. But in the rest of the thing, tomorrow I will take theory only, because that is not ready, but we'll do.
Yes, ma'am. And can we get some suggestions on of what like watching material can we look forward to just get more familiar with data science and all these terminologies?
So the thing is that there is so much material available online that
Yeah.
if you look for something, there's always this fear of getting drowned.
Yeah.
And the
So
thing is,
so the
yeah,
people like me, like Abhishek also mentioned that he's not from that background. So for people like us, what can we see, like to get very familiar and get on started with the course as well? So
okay. So I would say just, solve the problem piece by piece. Don't think of having the whole elephant with you, right away. Let's say today we covered some things. Now, out of these, some of the terms may not be clear to you. So one option is you pick up a whole book, digest it, and then come to the course and, start listening. But that would take you some time, isn't it?
Yeah.
And by that time, we would have moved ahead. So
Yeah.
better is that whatever is covered in the session, and out of that, what is not clear to you, you can just go back, look and, look at those terminologies, then you'll understand. And I'm sure with first few turns, you would have enough background to understand the future thing also. So that is what I'm saying, that you just look at some basics, right? Don't, whatever I'm talking about, let's say you didn't understand some particular terminology, go look back and see what it is. That should be sufficient.
Okay.
Yeah.
And ma'am, just a request, like if just to add to what Amol said, right? So if we can just get a list of topics that are going to be covered in next session, so we'll have an idea and we can do a pre-read before attending the session, right? So we will be like better catching on the terms that are being used in the lecture.
Yeah, sure. Now the thing is that giving a very detailed list actually again becomes a little cumbersome. But yes, I will give a broad list. I mean, I used to do that, somehow just started with the course. So I will do that. Maybe from the next week onwards, we'll do that, whatever broadly we are going to cover in the next 1 or 2 sessions, I will just share those keywords kind of a thing with you, with all of you. Okay. And I'll request Simran or whosoever is the host to follow up with me on that, just in case if I miss. So maybe you can just try to gather it from me and share it with the learners. That would
Yes,
be
ma'am,
nice.
can you also check the detailed curriculum if you can find that as well?
I have to show you the detailed curriculum also. So there are some things I'm still working on it. We are still working on it. Just allow some more time. I will be showing. Okay. Okay, then.
Are you on the call? I mean, Simran Khatija.
Yes, I'm on call.
Yeah, we have some queries. So maybe if when Durga ma'am
Yes,
left,
yes.
we need to
Yes,
discuss few topics.
yes. I'll stay back.
Thanks.
Okay. So I think pretty much we are done. Any other question, anything that needs any discussion for today, I can take it quickly and then otherwise we
And
can wrap
the
up.
platform we will be using would be Anaconda or something else we can use.
So the thing is that right now I do not know what platform will be available here. So earlier in my other courses, what I usually do is we have a client server kind of a thing where we are able to run Python notebook and all that. Now, what backend will support, what it is still being worked out actually. So I cannot say.
But at our end, we can use Anaconda, not an issue now.
Yeah. You can use. You can use the code that I will give. Will be such that you will be able to run it that anyway. There should be no issue.
Sure.
Oh. Anything else? So I think then we have come to the end of today's session. Then have a good night, everyone, and we'll meet tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
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 Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, Simran.
Prashant, you want to go ahead first?
Yes. Hello, Simran.
Hi, Prashant.
Yeah, so I sent out an email regarding the offer letter from the IT Roorkee.
Yes.
2
So
weeks
that's
back.
still in discussion. Once I
Okay.
get an update on that, I'll let you guys know.
So I'm sure this is in your radar.
Yes. I've already spoken to the management about this. They said they will have to discuss.
It will be a
And-
helpful letter, Simran, and in case we can get it, right? It is not
Yes,
only
yes, I
Prashant's
know.
request. Yeah.
I know. I got it from a couple of you. I've already raised this with the management. They said they will have to discuss with someone else and get back. So I will remind them on Monday again.
And regarding this link, right, Simran, suppose if LMS is not getting open, we are not able to access the course. So it would be good if we are getting the at least a reminder before the session on the mail. Because today it has happened with me that I was not able to open the LMS and I was not able to access the link.
Why are you not able to access the LMS?
I'm not sure. It was not getting open. I just get in touch with few of the members here.
Maybe
Yeah.
you are maybe you're trying to open from your office laptop and actually the redirector link it has something prefixed with the future sense keyword. Exactly, I'm not remember, and that's not the certificate of that website is not valid, so that's why it is not able
Yeah,
to.
this was the error. Yes, right.
So don't open on that one. What you can do, copy the link and filter and remove that initial keyword and just type IIT Roorkee, this iitroorkee.futuresense.com. You will able to open it. If you are thinking to click on the email and then open it, you will not able to get redirected. Sometimes it happens.
Okay.
So that's a technical problem which the email which is being sent by the Future Sense, they need to remove this keyword actually. They don't need any redirector, short URL, etc. Maybe somewhere.
But ideally, for every class, you'll know the timings. It's 6 to 8 on Saturday and 10 to 12 on Sunday. So you have to join from the LMS itself. If in case there is any change in the time, like today's class, there was a change in time, I sent out an email notification in advance only so that you will know when to join and you can go on the LMS and join.
Simran, I have one question regarding the attendance. So I am attending all those class from IIT, but I could not attend those class on weekdays, right? So, which was not
Yes.
discussed before. So I guess for that attendance is not a matter, right?
No, so for the weekday classes that are happening, the math weekday classes, attendance will not be counted. You just need your attendance will mainly be counted for the weekend classes that's happening on Saturday and Sunday. For last Saturday and Sunday, your attendance has already been uploaded on LMS, so you can check it out if anyone finds any discrepancies. Like, let's say, for example, you were there in the class and you have been marked absent, just drop an email to me and I'll check it.
Which LMS?
The mixed
IIT
class.
LMS?
IIT
How,
Roorkee LMS.
Okay, thank you.
how we will see the
There is a
total number of the classes happened? Means as of now,
two
there is two
classes have
only
happened. So as and
happened.
when each class happens, you'll see that a different tab has been added and then you can check your attendance for that day.
Okay, either it will be present or absent, something like.
Correct. It'll
Okay.
be present or absent. Last weekend's has already been uploaded, so you can already go and check that out. There is any issues, just email me.
Simran, one suggestion, like ma'am also told that you are working on the practical platform that we need to use for the hands-on part. So my request is that, just publish, as many of the people said, just publish a workbook for the practical sessions, so that because, with we as working professionals, then we will go through the workbook, that this is the problem statement, this is, but it can be in soft only, but at least a very well structured, workbook with respect to each of the practical sessions that we need to recreate on the platform.
So Tarun, that the practical sessions will be taken by ma'am itself and she will prepare the content.
So that is a suggestion from our side, said that someone from FutureEnse take with the ma'am, because ma'am itself was saying that she is in discussion with FutureEnse for the platform.
Yeah, that's just for the
Platform, she will-
platform,
yeah, for the
not
platform.
for the hands-on.
That's
The
what, so
hands-on
what is
part,
to be
she
done
will.
on the, what is to be done on the platform now? So that is also important. So that's what I'm saying, that is a, a suggestion from my side, because, I work with this IIT Kanpur also. So they used to give very well structured, practical notebooks, so that whatever is to be done on the session, it was actually, a different kind of material they used to give us, so that we can refer to that and complete our labs.
Let me check on that.
Yeah.
And last question, Simran, when are we supposed to get our IIT Roorkee email ID? That was also.
I have not got any update on that, so I will check on that as well and the official offer letter.
Okay.
Simran, what is the class size?
One second. I think there are around 160-ish students.
Thank you.
Actually, class
have
size
just
is not 3 times than the normal size. So that's why, it is very annoying when there are so many questions. So it would have been better if
We
it would
work
have been
out some
split.
mechanism to for the questions as well.
So yeah, we can work this out amongst ourselves. We can keep the last few minutes for questions.
Yeah, the
That
batch
is
size
what
has.
we need. Actually, there is need to strike certain kind of norms or kind of
I think,
mechanism.
Simran, we can do this way. If the questions are related to the material in the slide, that is, the interpretation of the slide material, then that question has to be asked at that point in time only, because, otherwise it would be very difficult for the participant to go ahead. But if the questions are related to generic scenarios, wherein, they want to have more, discussion on the generic scenarios or something, which is beyond the text, so then those questions should be taken at the end. So that way we need to split it out.
Yeah, so I think
Yeah,
we can do that. A couple of questions related to the content that ma'am is taking. If in case it's related to that, you can ask it then and then, but raise your hand, of course, if ma'am allows you, then yes. And then those of you
But
who are
then,
generic or higher
being
level,
ma'am only as the moderator, na, it is getting difficult as we felt in today's class. So from your side also, some moderation can be done.
Yeah, I mean that's required, Simran, because sometimes people are using their knowledge. They are already working on that. Few people are not working on that. Their methodology. They are asking those things, but there is disconnect from the whatever she's actually want to taught. That is not coming out clearly.
the
A few
thing is,
people.
even I am not sure of what question who is going to ask.
That is the thing that people are not understanding. Like if they are already implementing some such things, all people are not from the same background.
Correct. So even if I'm moderating it, I will call out everyone's name whose hands are raised, but I'm not sure who's asking what kind of questions.
So
Simran,
Simran, I
is
have just one suggestion. When like it's up to everyone who wants to follow it. But what I saw in the last session was when Durga ma'am completes a particular topic, not the whole session, but a particular topic, she asks if anybody has any question. So let us suppose if anybody has any question which is related to that particular topic and the slides that she has shown, then maybe they can ask it at that moment, raising their hands, and then you can call out the names like you did the last session. And the ones who are having some, generic questions, scenario based questions, that can be asked at the end of the session itself. They can, write it down somewhere and they can ask it, because there are few who are, okay with that scenario based, and there are few who, doesn't even understand. So maybe it might be difficult for them to digest that, and then later on they, stop understanding the remaining part as well, because now they are confused.
Agree, 100% agree.
So it's not
100%
like
agree.
people should
And
not.
also we should refrain ourselves from asking about topics
Experience,
or mentioning topics
experience
which
question.
are
Yeah.
coming in future, like decision tree, or like somebody I think asked about binary tree. I think that is something which is coming in future, right? We should refrain ourselves from asking these questions, because
Yeah,
again it
correct.
it becomes a bit afraid to those people who are very new to this topic. So
Even if,
So
just
Swapnil, no,
respect
you
Durga
can't.
ma'am. So
Swapnil, you
for
can't
teaching
refrain
whatever
anyone,
he's trying to
because
teach.
it is like there are few people who doesn't know anything, and there are few who might be knowing so much. And then again, we are not sure what all topics will be covered. So we can't refrain anyone of asking it, but yes, that can be done post the session is completed, right? So
I
it will be
agree.
like,
That is
oh
what
my,
I'm saying.
yeah, right.
In
We should
between
be
the
doing
session, we
that,
shouldn't be asking that.
because
Yeah, this
sometimes,
should be parked for end of the session.
Correct.
so
So
Exactly.
let's try this. Everyone, whoever has questions during the session tomorrow, if it is related to the content or if it is related to anything that ma'am has spoken about, raise your hands. If it is some generic related questions, maybe we can keep that for the end. Just
Yes.
make a note of the question, keep
That is
it towards the end,
precisely
so
the
that people
Agree.
who are new, to the concept, they're at least following along the class, and then towards the end, you can ask your questions and they are also not scared.
No, even for the people who are experienced, right, it breaks the flow of the class. So it is quite
Correct.
better that if it is related something to the material in the slides or what ma'am has spoken about, let's ask therein, because that is important.
we
And other
usually,
questions let's take at the end.
yeah, we
Correct. Yeah.
usually, deviate
100%
from the
agree with Tarun
topic.
bhai.
We usually deviate from the topic and we start, discussing something else. So it's like she already has few slides which she thinks of covering in a particular session. And when, we keep on asking, it's like she is not able to cover it out. So better we park our questions for later once the session is complete, and then maybe we can ask those.
Actually, that is what I was
Yeah.
mean by saying that refrain yourself, so that you
Okay.
can park your question for the end of the session, because that has happened. Somebody or there are many of the time it has happened that there was
Yes.
something else was on the slide, and we were taking that discussion to somewhere else, and that has disrupted flow for those people
Right.
who are learning this for new for the first time, and they got afraid because of that.
I understood. I think, last time when the session was started, no, Durga ma'am had itself, herself told that please ask the questions once the topic is complete. So nobody asked it and we waited for the topic to be completed. So this time she doesn't mention it and everybody, started taking the, and point is if you are, raising your hand, she is going to answer it. So it is, us who have to refrain ourselves for time being, and then maybe wait when she says, okay, now is the time to ask the queries.
Maybe the trick is that raise your hands when she says any questions, because
Yeah,
she
that's
gets
it, right.
obliged to answer to raised hands, right?
That's what I said.
So-
Last time she
Mhm.
followed that path, she told initially and then she, specifically said that who has to ask questions related to the topic that she has covered. So if you are raising your hands, she has to answer it. So it is up to us. We have to stop that thing. And once the topic is complete, not the whole session, but the topic, and then we can, ask the queries.
Yeah,
Yes,
maybe,
yes.
that is
But
very
again, there were
No, no,
140
maybe-
people at the start of the session, and now we are just 56. So that is the problem. So when tomorrow, when we will be in the session again, there will be 100 more people
Maybe
who do not know what we have discussed, right, Sakshi? So ये
No, no,
problem
no.
तो
So
होने
one
ही वाला है
second, one
कल भी।
second, one
someone
second.
needs to
Tomorrow,
put
guys, one
in the
second.
WhatsApp group
One
what is the
second,
decision.
Taran, one second. Tomorrow, before the session starts, once people join, let me reiterate it in the beginning of the class. We'll try following it for tomorrow and seeing how it goes.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you, Simran.
That would be
Yeah,
okay.
Simran,
That's
I
fine.
think once we get the schedule, right? Once we get the day by schedule, we will know, like on this particular day, what are the topics that ma'am is going to cover. Maybe if we have that in our sense, we will be thinking a bit more. Suppose today 2 topics need to be
Asking
covered.
more
Half an
questions.
hour, 1 hour have crossed, and we are still in the first topic. Then maybe people will be more sensible to ask questions. Because we don't know, right, what is the topic ma'am has in his mind. So ma'am is allowing questions and people are asking questions.
But Simran, from your, future end side also, no, you have a certain timeline of kicking this, program. But then till now, the brochure is not designed. So this is not, the good approach of starting the program.
And even the materials are uploading very late. They are not synced up. We are almost reaching to the next class, and then the things are on the portal. So a lot of, I mean, it shouldn't have been happening since like
Materials are being uploaded as and when the sessions are happening. Like last week, I think on Tuesday
and
or
if you see, like even for the data curation and all, there are no a discussion, assignment and quiz, nothing is there. And I was expecting at least the previous classes or expected some examples should have been given, right? I mean, we can't go randomly and attempt at the first go. It's even for the final exams also. So there should have been certain samples given before. That's one expectation. And second thing is, like, as we are all discussing, right? When we go through the material, it's always post the class, right? And people might have different question or different scenarios. So there should have been some intervening class, which just not only covers the topic, but even like somebody has any question from their post reading or from the previous class or certain scenarios, right? When they having in their day-to-day work or they're learning something. So there should have been some bandwidth. And I'm very sure, like when I talked at the very beginning with your reps, there was certain confirmation given where the industrial specialist will be taking certain classes, which is not happening at least for last 2 weeks, Simran. So it's, I mean,
the session started only last week, so that will eventually come in. Like once you get a little bit more understanding, the industry sessions will eventually start coming in then.
But you know what happens, like when we go to the next class, the topics are already advancing and we are getting bombarded with things. We have to cover the previous thing where the things are missing. And it's like, it's getting accumulated for the next upcoming session. So should we prepare for the next or cover the previous one? Which is not logical, right? I mean, somebody coming from a naive background, they have to read well, they have to prepare well before the next class starts, which is not happening. If you say like your, for example, today hands-on should have been started. Somebody could have started with a Python code of A equal to B plus C, but it has not happened. Now next class, ma'am goes and advances to a next topic, right? Which is again something advanced which we learned today. So then somebody has to start at say level 3 when it should have been started at level 0, right?
Even data pre-processing, if you want to learn on the practical Anaconda and all, at least you would require 1 month to actually do it, the complete pre-processing part.
should have got the practical platform till now, because as Tarun bhai said, it takes time to get habitual to that platform, to get habitual to the IDE or the Jupyter Lab or the Jupyter Notebook that we on which we are going to. Many of the time it happens that they don't know the shortcuts, they don't know how to execute a program. This happens. Maybe Simran, you need to have a session to give an introduction to how to use that platform. It happens to those people who are not from the technical background or not who has not into that.
I'll give you one context also, Simran. I, did a course from IIT Roorkee only during COVID times. The course was conducted by CloudX Lab. Sandeep Giri had conducted that course. In the first session itself, he, told about the platform, that what is the platform we are going to use. And he ensured that everybody in the class downloaded that platform, and in the subsequent classes we used that platform. Everybody had opened that platform, and whenever Sandeep was doing some practicals, we used to do those practicals in the class itself. So that was the way it was taken.
So,
So
one more.
Ideal. I mean, as a part of onboarding only, this should all has happened. Everything should be prepared. Even your materials, Simran, are not at all very impressive. Like it opens a book, page numbers are given. Say if I talk about the math classes or even the actual master class, right?
Yeah.
It's not at all intuitive for someone who is going a read notes. It's like even I mean the shock is like it's a future tense thing, and I'm getting a material of emeritus, like which is a subjective document, right? Which is not at all the expectation I had like from the course. I think it needs to be a plan in a better way, so that these kind of confusion, this kind of tassel or conversation should be avoided from the very beginning.
The bridge course, though, we have already left. That is no use actually. So we are only following Mithun lectures as well as the madam content only. Bridge course is totally.
Tarun, even like for the AI, materials, if you go right, it's similar. Downloadable is the second thing, and we have to just hop on to some, even in spite of enrolling to the course, we have to go and search through other material, YouTube videos. Somebody who's from a naive background, or want to even brush their skill up. These things are not helping out much. So that shouldn't be the case, right? After enrolling to a course. And it's again, like as I said, the this masterclass material itself are not very intuitive to consume what is being taught, and then you point and clear your doubts. So it's all website links or some other material, something given like that.
So the presentations of the master class have been uploaded. The presentations, whatever the presentations.
Yes, presentations are uploaded, which is again, ma'am is already covering in detail. But the extra supporting documents.
No,
right?
not about the ma'am, but about the the FIH lectures. FIH presentations have been uploaded or not?
I'm not getting Tarun, sorry.
So Simran, FIH presentations, the two industry leaders.
Yeah, Tarun, that is uploaded, both the video and the material.
Okay.
So Simran,
it's
I have
there,
one
it's
question.
uploaded.
Simran, I have one not question or suggestion, because this is a very ambitious course. It has like machine learning, then deep learning, then generative agentic AI, and given the time frame February, it is like every module is a 100-pound gorilla. It's a lot. So I'm not sure. Looking at the pace today, I think it's gonna take forever, to be honest. And even if you do, I don't know how we're gonna manage it. The batch is very there are too many people, 1650 or so. So can you talk to the future tense and ask them to provide some doubt clearing from the future tense department, like someone who can who was supporting us in the maths, like DJ, who can do the doubt support, because then some work will be diverted from the ma'am for doubt clearing.
Exactly. Some intervening classes is needed apart from topics separately, and that's like usually curriculum. So yeah.
Sure, I'll get that checked.
Because at the first place, I'm also really very disappointed, because I did some courses, like one going through Scalar and one from the UT Austin, and everything was very planned, and batch size is ridiculous. Even if, because we can't say that what question is important or not important, someone might not ask the very relevant question, and we will see in the future these things will come with the batch size. So this is future tense has to decide that how they're gonna take it. You guys are running the shop, and
an alternative, Mayank, what I'm thinking, anyways, the course has started late, right? And it was supposed to be wrapped up by Feb. So you extend your tenure with possibility, right? Simran, I mean, you have to adjust. So if, for example, if we have missed out, say 8-9 classes, we cannot rush into those topic or we cannot miss out that topic. So we are fine even if you go in this, but you extend your course tenure then, so that at least nothing is rushed out, nothing goes off belt. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
another.
nothing will be rushed. It will how many months the course has said, it will continue for those many months from the month it has started.
But looking at today and number of students, and because if you see A to Z, we are not even at A today, the kind of difficulty. With every lecture, it will keep on increasing. The machine learning will come, deep learning will come. It got keep on getting complicated, and there will be so many questions. So I am really kind of a skeptic now how it's going to play out. So that's why I'm saying in the in advance that you can talk to future tense. They should have done already that these should be 2 or 3 batches, as someone already mentioned. But okay, that's fine. It we have passed that bridge now. But at least provide us the extra support from future tense and for doubt resolution. You guys have to work it out because it's gonna blow up in the future.
Sure. I'll talk to the team regarding
But the lab part, is Future Tense building any lab, or they are taking any lab from the cloud for AI learning? So what is the plan actually?
Arun, I'm not sure. The tech team will have to intervene
Can
for
you
the.
invite tech team in tomorrow's session? So at the end of the session, we can ask some questions.
Let me check. They usually are off on Sundays. So I'll check if they are available, then
Just
I'll get
ask
them on
regarding the
call.
platform, because see, I have attended many machine learning programs. So what is done from their side is that, like Talent Sprint or whatever, the second agencies, they are offering the cloud lab, and IIT teachers are teaching. So then the lab access is given, the license is given to all the participants for some time, like 15 months or so. That is one approach of doing it. The second approach is that everybody has to have Anaconda on their laptops, and then they have to use open the platform, and whenever they want to do exercises, even in the class also, they have to open their platforms. That is the other way of doing it. But then we need to be sure, we should not be missing the sessions and skipping the practical part, but at least we should be sure that what is the platform that we are going to use.
Yes, I'll try to find that out.
Simran, I had just one question. All the live intervention classes are happening on the weekdays, evening time mostly. So some of us are missing those due to office commitments. So is there a solution for that?
Yes, so for that, no, your attendance is not counted for all the weekday sessions that are happening. Your attendance is not counted, and the recordings for that are uploaded on LMS. So it's fine if you're not able to attend it during the scheduled time. You can go back and watch the recording whenever you get some free time.
Thanks.
Okay, I think we can disband the session.
Okay, guys, thank you.
Thank you, Simran. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Simran.
you.
Even bye bye. See you tomorrow.